Welcome to People, Stories and Words. I'm Cristian and today I will introduce to you a member of my Toastmasters family, Larry GoldSmith. I found out Larry when I was looking for remarkable people. Task quite hard itself because most Toastmasters members are beyond remarkable. However, Larry is a special case. Just like the 1989 movie with Eric Roberts says, he's best of the best. After getting to know Larry, I can say that he's a second circle guy, like Patsy Rodenburg would put it. And that means he is here, in the now, and that he has that certain something we call charisma. Enjoy. Thank you for accepting my invitation. My guest today, Larry GoldSmith, is a distinguished Toastmaster, a father, an experienced project manager, an exceptional public speaker, a dedicated service leader, a loyal employee, and even more, he speaks French and loves theater. Am I missing something?
No, that's pretty good.
Tell us a little about what you do.
Okay, I work for an insurance company in the IT technical area. What I do is I go out to the business areas and I interview them, I ask them questions, and get a feel for what problem they're trying to solve. And then I interpret that, I communicate it back to the IT developers, and they build it.
If you would have to position yourself, because you're a public speaker, you are a leader, you're a project manager, what would you say that you are? Are you an IT guy? Are you a coach? How would you define yourself?
I guess I would define myself as a facilitator. I try and bring people together, ask the right questions, and go farther than just the superficial questions to get at the real heart of the problem, and then negotiate that into action or results.
Thinking about your childhood, do you have any memory that you would like to share?
Does it have to be anything in particular?
I don't know, maybe the best lesson that you've got from your father, or anything you care to share with us.
Okay. I guess the best piece of advice I ever got actually came from a professor. And it was a professor, I didn't even have his class. He was a person that I met during orientation. And he took me aside and he gave me the keys to surviving in school. And what he said was, look like a student 2 times a day. And what he meant by that was, the first time that you act like a student, get yourself a plan. Organize your thoughts, figure out all the tasks that you have to do to be successful or complete the assignment. And then it doesn't matter if you had spent 5, 10, 15 minutes looking like a student, you did the prep work so that you could put it aside and do whatever you needed to do. But that second time that you acted like a student, now you've got all that outline done. And you can spend the next hour being productive because all that planning is done. And I thought, well, I know he was telling me that's how to survive in school, but I've really taken that advice and applied it to every aspect of my life. Because if you're in a business or a corporate situation and you think to yourself, all right, I've got this big task to do, the very first thing you want to do is get organized, set apart the task, especially a project manager. They always put their tasks in order. And I feel like if I do that step, then if I get distracted or I have to go to a meeting or I forget to do something and suddenly I'm distracted, I know when I get back to that assignment, I've got all my prep work done. And then it's so much easier to complete the task that second time.
As you refer to getting organized, this is one of the things that I try to teach people that I work with. I work with people that want to change their job to get in IT, and I tell them that without an objective and then without a plan, they will get somewhere, but not exactly where they want to.
Oh, that's exactly. All too often, we just assume something's going to land in our lap because so often growing up or in those college years, you find yourself being the benefactor of different things. And so you get into a reliant to that. I know when I came out of college, my first job was helping my sister. She was already established in a company and they had just gotten a new client and she was having trouble reconciling that client. I ended up coming because she asked me to come and help her solve her problem. And I knew she was just trying to get me out of the house and into that corporate environment to really get me that exposure. And then I ended up spending, lots of hours trying to solve her problem and developed a knack for that. And so much so that her boss ended up hiring me. And I know I could have just sat back and just allowed these things to happen. But the more I got involved, the more I planned and where I wanted to be in 5 years, that forced me to follow my path and knowing I also had to have the flexibility that as these curves came or these different opportunities came, I could recognize them and take advantage of them. And you can't do that just waiting for it to happen.
I've noticed that you've mentioned your sister. Larry, is it right to say that family is very important for you?
Yes, family is very important to me. The different world events that have always come around in all these years, after the event, the family would always rally together. Whether that's physically or emotionally or electronically, as it may be, they always find that center. So while chaos is happening, it's always very nice to have that grounding opportunity to talk and communicate and be around that support system that will always be there, and that's your family. So whether that's your immediate family that takes care of you, that keeps you mentally balanced, or your extended family where you share and you network and you have these stories that are so cool during family reunions and stuff, just to be comfortable and not have to be the center of attention.
I have to admit that I focus more on my extended family, and I include Toastmasters in my extended family.
I would agree with that. I struggle. I have visited and I have been so involved in our district. I find myself when I'm out and about running into people and I recognize them, and I am terrible with name. That's one of my biggest faults is I can meet somebody and their name will escape me. So I see people, I recognize them, but I don't know in what context, whether I met them in a Toastmasters environment or corporate environment. And it's normally, and this is one of those interesting things, if they come up to me and start talking, I'm pretty sure they are Toastmasters.
We are kind of talkative.
Exactly. A corporate person may come up and say hi, but a Toastmaster will talk.
Definitely. I would change a bit the subject. There's always a question that each of us would like to be asked. What is that question that you would love to answer?
Wow, your questions are hard.
There's nothing I can throw at you that the table topics haven't prepared yet. I'm pretty
That's
sure.
true. I mean, I think more that there's so many ways I can answer that question because there's so many aspects that you can answer. So repeat the question now. I've already forgotten it.
What is the question you would love to answer to?
I think the question of what gets you up in the morning. You know, all too often, people they have these bouts of depression or sadness or despair, and I always want to think to myself, you know, I get up and I'm excited for the day, and it could be a rainy day, it could be a day that's full of meetings, and I know it's going to be bad, but I understand that how you approach your day determines how that day is going to go. I'm a firm believer of the positive thinking. And if you can't start your day on that positive note, you will have a bad day. And I don't like to face a day that I think is going to be bad. And I've tried to instill that into my kids because all too often they start their day like, oh, I don't want to go to school or I don't want to go to work. And I try and turn that around because if you can't approach your day with a positive attitude, you are not going to have a good day. But if you approach it with a positive attitude, then you will find the joy and the happiness in that day. It can be in the little things, it can be in the big things. But most importantly, when little things go wrong, it helps you get through them.
One interesting thing that I've read is that positive thinking and negative thinking are located in different areas of the brain. And when you're positive, you will stimulate the positive area. And I think you've chosen the right method to become positive.
Well, I like to think so.
Yeah. And since you've started with how you will start the day, what is your typical work day like?
Well, I start the day with a walk. When I get up, before I shower, I go out and take a walk. And I do that because it really clears the head.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you're thinking about all the stuff you have to do during your day and you're getting that plan in order. I find as I'm walking, some of that stuff resolves. Okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. But being out in the fresh air and getting a little exercise and committing to that kind of activity helps me breathe a little deeper, see a little farther, and get the bigger picture. And I'll have a little notebook and I'll write little notes in it. There's people that I see along my walk every day, and we wave to each other, even though we are not on a first name basis. But these are people that you know, and it's nice to have a nice smile in the morning. Then when I get back, my wife is up and we have breakfast together and we talk about what we're going to do today and set up those things together. Now, I'm working from home these days and she's in the office, so she leaves. And then I start my day checking out my calendar, getting all my priorities in order, and start documenting or sending out emails or interviewing people, getting ready for those meetings throughout the day. And then I find at the end of the day, I can document or follow up on anything that didn't get done during that day. But I always like to keep my to-do list so that at the end of the day, I can go through it and check everything off and know it was a productive day. Then a lot of times my wife and I, we take a walk in the evening and we share.
So you're also a list person, just like I am.
Yes, I like to put together the tasks that I have to do during the day. Now, my wife takes it to the next level. She has details for the week. I try and take one day at a time.
Probably it's the best approach. On a funny note, did you know that your first Toastmasters encounter was related to my country, to Romania?
It was?
Yes, think of your very first table topics question. Do you remember it?
Oh, I remember it well. I just didn't know it was out there published somewhere.
Yes, it
And
was.
I shouldn't say that as well. I should say I remember the purpose. I had to argue something, and see, that's the part I don't remember. I don't remember what I was arguing, but I remember the twist on it was I had to do it as Dracula.
Yes, yes. Most of the people know Romania is the country of Dracula.
I see your connection now.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely. Bram Stoker is the guy to blame for that.
But
So,
that's really what sold me on Toastmasters, because of the fact that I was already very involved in facilitation and project management work. So talking in front of people was not a problem of mine. However, I was doing so many technical conversations, and one of my degrees is in dramatic arts. And so I was finding, as I was doing all these presentations, I didn't have that creative outlet, a chance to really stretch. And so my friend, when I was complaining about that, he's the one that said, hey, you should come to a Toastmasters meeting. So my very first Toastmasters meeting, they invited me up and they gave me the Dracula question. And that spurred that dramatic and theatrical part of my brain. And I just fell in love with the opportunity to have stage time like that.
so Toastmasters, I would say, has been doing improvisation before improvisation become, I don't know, appreciated, I would say. Now, Larry, what do you think? Would it be useful for teachers to take an acting class?
Teachers or students?
Teachers, because most of the students are complaining that teachers are boring. They come into the class and they just read their material with no emotion whatsoever.
I think that would help. And the reason I say that is every student is different. And I think the teachers have a tremendous challenge in trying to reach every one of their students. And you can't do that through lecture alone. There's, 2/3 of people are visual learners. And that is more of a visual art. And you can't really be a visual artist without having a theater background. All right, something that can spurn creativity and imagination. And I know teachers struggle because they do have lesson plans that they have to follow. However, they need to find that key. And, the teachers that I remember most are the ones that go above and beyond. It's not just the statistics, it's not just the numbers. It's the way they're presented and how they can grab the attention of an individual. And I used to be a terror in high school. I mean, and I say terror in the sense that I was the one that would crack jokes. I was not disruptive. I want to make that distinction. But I was always the one that would find the humor in whatever was going on. And I had teachers that embraced that. And I think it was because they understood that by laughing at themselves or laughing at the material, it would ingrain in the student's mind better. While the ones that fought it and really tried to be very strict in their classrooms, that would turn students off. So to answer your question in a very roundabout way, I think unlocking the creativity and the imagination of the teacher would help them reach more of their students.
Mentioning jokes, have you ever considered stand-up comedy?
I have, and I've been told that I'm a very good storyteller. And I did win my district's humorous speech contest one year. Of course, that's a different kind. I mean, storytelling, that's the thing about stand-up. Stand-up has really gotten into the very quick hit jokes. And I enjoy quick hit jokes, but I also love when you can weave a set of jokes into a story. And I think that's where I would excel. And so I don't know if that's considered a stand-up comedian or just a straight comedian.
Stand-up comedy is one of my interests, and I can tell you that you can go both with one-liners, those short jokes that you've mentioned, but also with storytelling, and even a combination of those two. But getting to Toastmasters, you had an amazing progress. You've reached where no one has gone before, and when I read about you, you've mentioned that mentors have helped you to grow so fast. Can you tell me a bit about your mentors?
Sure. My first mentor was a lady by the name of Wendy Grafe. Unfortunately, she passed away several years ago. She really took me under her wings. I had only been a Toastmaster maybe 2 or 3 months, and she wanted to take me into the district and expose me to all the other clubs. Now, that's great, and I encourage that. If you are a Toastmaster and you haven't experienced other clubs, you need to get out there and see how other people do it, because it's amazing that even though the program is pretty set, the little nuances and culture and morals that the other clubs put into their presentation, it's amazing and so wonderful to see. So I really thank her for exposing me to many different worlds. But she also convinced me to be an area director after being in Toastmasters only 4 months.
And you learned on the fly.
And that was, unfortunately, because I entered into that late and she told me about her, she encouraged, and she was the one who got the district to assign me. Suddenly, I'm doing a job that I had no clue what it was. And I had to learn on the fly. I had to really reach out and build a network, which, again, when you're not expecting that kind of work, it's scary, but it's also empowering. And it really allowed me to grow very quickly. And it also taught me that, don't be afraid of the hardest thing of the job, because if you break it down into little bits and pieces and those little tasks, you can get through it very quickly.
Back in 2011, you were a District 40 Lieutenant Governor of Education and Training, and you said that the best way to educate club members on how to conduct fantastic meetings is to visit many clubs and then cross-pollinate great ideas throughout the district. If a club is struggling with an issue, chances are it has been addressed and resolved by a neighboring club.
Oh yes, over the past couple of years, I've made it a goal of mine to visit any club I can, and a lot of times they recognize me or have heard of me, and so they ask me after the meeting, what did I think? And I get to share with them not only what I observed in the meeting, but some of the things that I've observed in other meetings, countless meetings, different things that I thought the clubs did very well. There is a club locally who does what they call a snap cup. And what it is it's just random, hey, I really appreciated you doing this in the meeting. And so midway, right after table topics, before the evaluations, you can put these little slips of paper into this snap cup. And then at the end of the meeting, they read them out. So nobody knows who said what, but you get these random compliments like, oh, I really enjoyed the tie you wore today. Or I really appreciated your speech. So not only are you getting the official feedback from Toastmasters, which is beneficial, but you're also getting these compliments from people who took the time to pat you on the back. And that's tremendous. I have seen clubs that have a flower with little bugs because they're hummingbirds. And so the person in the meeting who has the most filler words gets to take this plant home, this hummingbird plant. It's creative, it's unique, and it's promoting Toastmasters, because I'm sure when that person puts that flower on their desk or that plant on their desk, people are going to ask the question. And that's really what it's all about. A fun, safe environment to grow and learn.
Indeed. At this moment, you have the most DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster, awards. I counted 21. Is that correct?
You're the first person to get the number right.
Thank you.
Most of the people, they guess. What are you, 18 now? What are you?
You may want to know that the runner-up is a lovely lady that has 18 DTM awards.
Well, all right.
To sum it up, it's you with 21, then the second place with 18, the third place with 16, and then the rest of the people with less than 10 DTMs. So you don't have to worry.
Yeah, but now you're telling me there's somebody on my tail.
Yeah, definitely. 5 DTMs this year, this lady managed to get. And
well, when Toastmasters came out with their Pathways program, which was a great program, but when they made the announcement and they said the old program was going away, at that particular time, I had all the other credits to get 7 more DTMs. The only thing I was missing was that year of service. And I contacted them and I said, you're giving me 2 years to do 7 years worth of work. And there's no way I can do that. Now, I'm not saying the coach thing that they came out with was as part of me, but I was so happy when they came out with that. If you coach a club to distinguished status, you get credit for the year, because that allowed me to find clubs that were struggling, put in the work, and get the credit so that I could use all that extra credit that I had achieved in the old program before it went away on July 1st. But that's the only way I was able to get 5 DTMs in 1 year.
Compared to you, I'm a beginner. I only have 3 DTMs. However, when I'm asked, how do you become a DTM? My answer is just follow the program. Did you follow the program, or did you have an objective to become a DTM?
Well, the first one, I followed the program right to the letter.
Okay.
And then when I realized, oh, this isn't the end of your journey. This is just a path to completion. And so when I started again, well, then I looked at it more of a, what can I do differently? How can I make this better for me? Or where are the opportunities? And so that's why the second year, I realized, I was an area director, but I wasn't a taught area director. I mean, I didn't go through the training. I didn't go through it. So I don't think I did a good enough job. So let me volunteer to do that the right way. And since I was going to do that, I also noticed that there was a couple areas that were close to that area that people weren't volunteering. So I said, is it possible to be an area director over 2 areas? And I was told, well, it's a lot of work. Not a lot of people do it. And I said, well, I would like to do that. And so that next year, I did 2 areas at a time. And so a lot of my career was, can I do that? Is it possible? Has anybody done it before? Am I breaking new ground? I brought in a Speechcraft program into my corporation. And now every quarter, we take people in the Toastmasters group and we have them run this Speechcraft program. And we have 10 students every quarter. And so far, it has It has not slowed down, but it's become self-reported. And I like to think that I had something to do with that. Our company has satellite offices around the area. So we're still in the division, but we had satellite offices. I put a club in every office and then asked the district if we could all become an area. And so these little opportunities. So you ask, the path to DTM. The first one was very straightforward. But then I just started jumping around because I had already gotten one. So everything else just became a matter of, can I do it? And I want to stress that, 21 is a massive number, but it's more about what I've put into the district, because every one of those DTMs, there is one or two people that I've helped reach DTM space for it. I've coached them. I've brought them along. I've been sponsors with people. I'm trying to be a shadow leader out there in the district. And I know every time I reach DTM, I have helped somebody else reach that DTM too.
That is usually an unknown part, that one DTM for you means one DTM for another person. Another subject that I would love to spend a bit of time on it is that you're involved in working with kids and also with persons that had problems with the law.
I've gotten involved with a couple youth organizations. There's a high school downtown that is drivable for my company. And we started going there because it's a vocational school, more or less. And they approached us and asked, is there any way we can get a communication class started? Because they recognized the need that people coming out of high school trying to become developers, they could be great coders, but they don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to interview. And so we brought the program to them, one of those youth leadership programs. And even though they were only expecting us to be there once or twice, we were able to go in there and do an extended program and teach the seniors to start teaching the underclassmen. And that was very successful. I got involved with competitive youth competition, the North-South Foundation. They do academic contests. And I would say maybe 10 years ago, they introduced public speaking into their repertoire. And I've been able to help them with judging and finding judges to do that competition. I've gone into correctional facilities. And
that's what I'm referring to.
Okay. I kind of fell into this one. But I really appreciated the opportunity. I once heard a speaker who talked about he was wrongfully incarcerated. So he spent several years in jail for a crime he didn't commit. And a lady befriended him and fought for him and eventually got him released. And he ended up going around talking about how he formed a club inside the prison. And his testimony was so powerful because not only was he inside the walls as an inmate, but he convinced, very rightly so, these people that you're going to be talking to a parole board sometime in the future, and you want your best voice in that room, and you need that confidence that a Toastmasters club can bring. And I really enjoyed that speech. And so when I had the opportunity to go into a prison or a correctional institution and meet with a club that was forming at that time, the stories that they shared were amazing. And one of them in particular, it wasn't about finding a job. It wasn't about being able to talk to a parole officer. It was about his family and his kids. And he wanted to learn enough or be confident enough to talk to a teacher about his kid. And he wanted to sound intelligent. He wanted to sound knowledgeable. And he wanted that confidence that a Toastmasters club can bring. And to see that, to hear that, and to hear how much they want to improve themselves is inspirational.
Inspirational and probably rewarding. I would love to involve myself in a similar program. However, the COVID-19 is a problem for the moment.
And that's the biggest disappointment. I went 3 years. I committed to 3 years and 2 correctional institutions. And I had just added a third. And I was scheduled to go meet with the administrators of that third one the week that they shut them down. And now I haven't been able to visit any of them. I've been trying to help them from the outside, but they're in lockdown. They have their own issues, and the news trying to come in and out is very spotty. But it's a very rewarding experience to mentor and be part of those clubs. And I encourage you, if you get the opportunity, do so.
It's something I want to try.
Yeah, I will share with you. The first time I went, very nervous because I knew I was going to have to walk across the yard. A very open space where a lot of inmates. Now, I assumed that a guard was going to escort me from one building to the other. But truly, the guard had his position, and all he did was radio to the next guard to say I was on my way. And so I'm walking down this path, and to make sure I didn't break any of the rules, I didn't wear a tie, and I had a very neutral colored shirt on. And when I walked out into the yard, I realized my very neutral gray shirt blended with all the other gray shirts. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to walk right to the next guard and be situated in this building.
I suppose that this type of audience would add just a bit of attention.
Well, that's the tricky part, because it's so easy once you get into the building, once you're behind that lectern and you're looking over your audience, they cease to become inmates, and you start talking and you get to different parts of your presentation, and you may have a whole series of stuff around vacationing or going someplace and enjoying food and stuff. And in the back of your mind, you start editing yourself. You're like, wait, I can't talk about that. These people are serving prison sentences. I don't know when they're going to get out, if they're going to get out. I don't really want to be bragging about all the freedoms I have. And so you edit yourself, and you have to do that on the fly sometimes if you haven't prepared yourself. And it's so easy to forget where you are because it seems so natural. Having been to many different clubs, you just think of them as another club, and you have to really be thinking.
It's not just another club. Larry, I have another question. Did you have at some point a challenge, a turning point in your life?
A turning point. Fresh out of college, I came down here, as I said, because my sister asked me to come down and help her out. But that's not really what I wanted to do with my life, what she was doing. So I think I kind of rebelled against that a bit. When things started falling into place and her boss offered me a job, I had to really think about, is this where I want to be the rest of my career, or is this the stepping stone in my career? And I said no, honestly, the first time. I said, no, this is not what I want. I had aspirations of getting into advertising, into art in some way. And I also wanted to stay in the theater. And I thought an IT position was just going to stifle all that creativity. So I had to really think about what did I want to be when I grew up? Everybody asked that question. And I think the crossroads to me was, all right, I had just drove 300 miles from home. And this was the first time since college that, I was out on my own. And it was a tough commitment to, leave everything I knew, all that comfort, behind and try and start something, anything. And I think we all come to that crossroad where you're like, all right, I got to face my career. I can't just be the guy sitting on the couch playing video games. I have to make a commitment, a plan.
Would you change it if you had a time machine? Would you go back and change anything? Would you go to become, I don't know, Al Pacino or any other famous actor? Or
Well, I have two good friends who went into acting. No, I take that back. There's three. I have three good friends who went the acting route. They're not named names, but one's very happy doing Broadway or stage work in Chicago. There's another one who's in charge of an acting group, and a third one who teaches it in high school. And I look at them and the family that they've created, the homes that they've created, and there's a part of me that's jealous because they chase their dreams. But from my own perspective, I'm very happy with how my life turned out and my family that I've created. And so whenever I get that question, was there any moment in time that you would go back and tell yourself or change? I'm always thinking of if I changed this, then that would never have happened. If I changed that, sure, I might have been successful. I might have been happy. I might have realized my end dream. But I believe I made that choice for a reason, and I'm where I'm at for a reason. And I'm very happy being there.
I feel exactly the same. If I will go back, I probably would buy some Microsoft shares, but I would still be an IT guy and an educator, so I won't change too much. Last question, the most difficult question I have been asked. You are on a live radio show. You have 1 minute and you're allowed to say anything. Every single person on this planet is listening. What do you tell them?
I tell them that life matters. You need to approach every day that it's special. And the people that you meet are special. You need to treat them the way you want to be treated, no matter color, race, ethnicity, religion, it doesn't matter. They are people first and foremost. And you need to love everyone just as you want to be loved. And if we can do that, the world would be a wonderful place to exist.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry, for giving me a part of your life and a part of your wisdom. Thank you a lot.
And I've enjoyed this. Thank you.